What's up, legends? Welcome to Blindside's Round 2 NRL Fantasy TLT breakdown, and we'll probably go into a little bit of an indication, I guess, as to who we're buy, holding, and selling. How are you going after round 1?
I got a score of 888, so 888, not too bad. I did play Laban, which was fantasy downfall for round 1. I could have put Sanders up there. I could have put, anyone else up there, but it was that last minute decision of just getting off Blake Steep. And I was like, man, I'll just jump on Laban. Wrong decision. But overall, 40,020. Not great, but not too bad either. So I'm making some moves this week, which should hopefully bump my ranks up a bit.
Yeah, sweet. Well, the fluctuation is between Kenty, who top scored out of us, and you is 39 points. And the fact that that's the equivalent to, 24,000 ranks.
Yeah.
This could very easily flip in round 2 and Browny will be ranked number 1.
Rank doesn't mean much.
Yeah, no, not at all right now.
Not at the moment, no.
So 926, I did down date. So a lot of people I saw got updates. I went down. So we ended up at 16,500. So not too bad. Yeah, missed out on a few. Didn't trust my gut on a few players, and that's kind of affected my end result. But hey, we learn, and it's still be inside 20 within week 1 is still pretty good.
Yeah, it is. Not much to climb, especially with the fluctuations in the ranks. I sit right in the middle, boys. 919, 20,000, 454 ranks. So we're all right in the same ballpark. And again, just a reminder that 39 points separates us, or something equivalent to that. I think it's 38, but I'm still pretty tired. So I'm just trying to figure things out on the fly here, boys. But let's move straight into team lists. Now, I think this is going to be quite a lot faster breakdown because a lot of the team lists emulate exactly what we've seen in round 1. So we'll just go through team by team, kind of just give our indications of where we stand on stuff. First game here is Broncos Eels. Going through the Broncos first, Reece Walsh for me is a firm hold. I don't think that there is any reason to get rid of him considering he had a poor score. If anything, this is the game you can watch one more time, give him an opportunity to stay in your team. If you see more of the same or lack of involvement and another low score against a bottom 4 side, I would be more open to the idea of getting rid of him in round 3. But right now, he could easily just go back to top of the range. And definitely not someone that's been on my chopping block. But I've seen a lot of coaches considering the idea. So I thought it's probably best just to breeze over that. Out of this Broncos side, is there any other areas of interest for you?
Like I said, I think preseason Shibasaki is still someone who I'm open to. Mm-hmm. But this last game was a real eye-opener because he also scored really lowly. And we talked about it in the preseason that Walsh loves to use him. So if Walsh has got low involvement and Shibasaki also has low involvement and then his score is hurt, just bear that in mind. So he's still someone who's high on my watch list, someone who I'm interested in, particularly in that centre role. But you would want to see that Walsh is starting to gun it and the team are gunning it on attack.
What about you, Brownie? Anyone else in this list? We got Patrick Carrigan and Payne Haas that are kind of on the radar to a degree. Payne Haas losing cash, but a firm hold. Patrick Carrigan didn't score in the range as predicted, but he also was in a very difficult game through the middle where, he maybe got rested in minutes and it has no forced lock or fixed lock sitting on the bench to take minutes from him. So I think we see a bounce back this week and definitely think he's a hold. But do you have anything to add on them?
I'll touch on Walsh quickly. Walsh is a firm hold because he averages more with Mam starting at 5'8" than Hunt. So when Hunt came in to start last week, I initially thought it's not going to be great, and it wasn't. But with Mam, Walsh historically averages way more. So the only apparent reason why Madge kept him on the bench last game, he was dealing with a small niggle. That's why they did that swap, but he's starting this week, so good signs. So it looked like Haas came off for 2 minutes, and then Xavier Willison went off for a HIA, and Haas was forced back onto the field. So I don't know how long that break was going to last. I don't think it was going to be very long at all. But Haas ended up playing out the duration of the game anyway for 56 points, I believe. So not great by his standards. But I think if they want to bounce back against the Eels, he's going to have to play his part big time. And with Carrigan, I was never as high on Carrigan as you were, Jai, being a pod. I was never thinking he was going to get 80 minutes. The fact that they don't have that reliable lock option on the bench kind of proves to me that would he have played a greater part in that game if they weren't getting blown out 26-0?
They had the highest errors of the round, so 33 errors.
Yep.
You're not going to get any fluency in ball running. So those boys aren't going to get as many tackles. They're also not going to get as many run meters. So the more they run, the more attacking points they get. So they weren't getting line breaks. They weren't getting line break assists,
Offloads.
all that. So offloads, nothing.
Offload opportunities weren't there. I think Haas had one. That's very uncharacteristic. Carrigan had 0. Carrigan made up most of his points by having 45 tackles.
Yeah.
So he didn't have the opportunity to run the ball, to get free ball out the back, nothing like that. And playing 67 minutes, I think you could probably see that inch closer to the 70 mark if the game was neck and neck. So I think the minutes are going to be there for both of them again this week. And the attacking opportunity is going to be there as well for all three, Walsh, Carrigan, and Haas.
Yeah.
So if you're an owner, don't sweat on it. Don't panic. It's all good. They'll be back to normal.
I agree. Carrigan, he had minus 12 in demerits as well in that 63-minute stint. So he's a 53 minutes, clean that up in a poor error game. Bang, he's straight back. So he's hold for me now. I think the only other one to mention in the team is just a bit of a watch is Adam Reynolds. That poor performance, scoring 13 points, led to a 40K price drop and a 72 break even. He's now at 599K. If that say excels, or at least he sits at say like that 45 range for the next few weeks, he will get very close to the 400k bracket, and if he stays healthy, that's a place where I'm buying. So he's just on my watch list at the moment. So moving into the Eels, there's not really any interest here for me. They got absolutely swamped. I need to see form before I buy in. I would say the only real area of interest is that we got proven that Hopgood was probably the better of those upper mid-range props. He is suspended this week, but a firm hold, in my opinion. Yeah. Mitch Moses, I would probably consider selling, to be completely honest. He's job sharing. Didn't show any signs of improved attack at all in that game. And I know it's one round, but I can see Pezzet's involvement really nuking any real potential value. Like maybe Moses will have 3 to 5 points, but I'd be getting rid of him, going into a Cody Walker or an Ethan Sanders if you don't own, or if you don't own Adam Dewey, move him straight across to Adam Dewey. Outside of that, I'm not interested really in anyone here other than eyes on Isaiah Yongi, because he did quite well in a team that got absolutely smashed.
I was going to say, if they can get some fluency in their play, Iongi, it becomes interesting. But again, exactly what you said, they need to actually get their A into G before we look to invest with anyone.
I might touch on Moses quickly. I think he's a bit of a hold.
Okay, cool.
Because if you take his errors out of the equation, he ends up on 39 in a game where they got absolutely demolished. There's every chance, because they got the Broncos this week. I think Eels are going to play a bit better than last week. I think they're going to, as Ryle said it, have a schooner of reality. Anyway. Then they got the Dragons, then Penrith, then Tigers, then Titans. So out of those 5 matchups, they got 3 pretty easy games, I guess, where Moses can get back to his normal play style. So
if he's your only way into some of these guys with negative break-evens, then I would totally consider it. If I've already got a lot of these cheapies, or I've got another trade bait, then I agree with you. I would have another look at Moses, just like I'm interested in having another look at Brown, just to see how he goes for the round.
Yeah, very similar tactics there. Like, if you're going to wait a week on Brown, wait a week on Moses.
Yeah.
Just to see
I'd agree.
how they go. Because you don't want their break-evens to get too high, and then it's kind of, you're panicking and you got to try and reach for remaining salary elsewhere to try and upgrade him then.
And they both have mitigating factors in that the performances were well below expectation. Dylan Brown had a weird role in that game in Vegas. Moses got absolutely swamped. It's the same situation as don't pay attention to overinflation in scores for round 1. You still don't pay too much attention to underwhelming scores in round 1 either. It's like you need the 1 to 3 date rule. I would say this week, if you see Dylan Brown in the 30s again and Mitch Moses in the 30s again, get rid of them, because now their break-even's too high to judge it. But personally, I'd be getting rid of Moses this week. I really think that he's going to continue failing. That aligns with my Brown narrative too, in that I already thought Brown was going to be a failure. I got rid of Moses because I thought he would be a failure. So me selling is kind of like, it's more validation that I still think the same thing. They haven't shown me anything that's going to prove it wrong. I guess we'll go into Waz and Raiders now. Up the Waz, but I've tipped Raiders.
Up the Waz.
Waz first. I think the real talking points here for me are Tanner Boyd and Jacob Laban. Outside that, there's a Kurt Capewell interest, the fact that he scored high 40s and played high minutes, but I still don't think the fact that Capewell played high minutes in that game is going to validate long-term consistency. Like, there's no saying that now this week he plays less minutes and Laban plays more. There's no saying that the impact that Lecker had from the bench, he's now utilised earlier and something else changes. Like, I feel like that this rotation in that WAS forward pack is something we need to watch for a couple of weeks before final decisions. So I wouldn't be jumping out at Kurt Capewell, especially now there's better edge options, centre options in the market. Outside of that, I think Aaron Clark is a watch. He's losing cash. He lost 20 grand this week, high break even. If he continues in that direction, he's someone I'd consider later on. But Tanner Boyd for me is an avoid, with Luke Metcalf possibly being back in round 3. But do you guys have anything to add to that scenario?
Capewell, I just want to bring up, he scored 48 points, so everyone will be rejoicing, owners, and obviously people who don't have him will be like, oh, edge centre DPP, sweet. He ends up 31 without those attacking plays, without the try, without the line break. He ends up on 31, right? So that's what people kind of have to look past, is that, he scored 48, great. But if you didn't get the try, if you didn't get those extra stats padded, and people would have been like, oh, it's one to look out for. That's why I avoided him. So.
Yeah, for sure.
Also, look out for that Pompey is expecting a baby, so he could be a late out. Tuapiki will either go to fullback and then Chance into the centres, or you'll see Roger go to the centres. I'd say that that's probably more likely. I can see them going Roger into centre because, particularly after last week, we were quite weak out wide. No way that the Raiders didn't pick that up, so they're going to have to really change their out wide defence for sure.
Well, moving to Raiders, KO Weeks has stayed on my watch list. He didn't really do anything too impressive to the point where I'm like, I've got to go out and grab. So I've simmered on him a lot. We know Matty Nicholson now is injured. He possibly could be needing surgery, as news that I've seen, which could be 10 to 20 weeks out. Noah Martin, wheels up, biggest buy of the round. Every single person that's making a trade this week that doesn't own him should be buying him. He should go from 12% to 100% ownership, unless you're trolling and you don't want to play fantasy properly. Joseph Tarpany, underwhelming score. He's now got a high break, even losing cash. So one I'm keeping an eye on. Ethan Sanders validated himself. He seems to be a certain cashy option now with that score. Matty Timoko is named in the wider reserves, could be a late inclusion for Simi Sasungi, which would push him to the bench and likely share minutes with Noah Martin, but I'm not concerned. Noah Martin in 50 minutes with a minus 20 break even is dollar signs. You just buy in, don't hesitate. Outside of that, do you guys have anything else to add to this for the Raiders?
Definitely get Noah Martin at negative 20. He's already making ridiculous cash from the moment he steps on the field and doesn't do anything. You have to have those opportunities and jump on those opportunities. As soon as I see a player like that who's sitting in negatives and has got high opportunity for lots and lots of minutes, ultimately rounds 1 to 6, 8, somewhere around there is where we make most of our cash in the year. From my perspective, you got to get rid of those who are going slowly and just get these types of boys.
I don't want to put a bad omen out in the world. I know it probably won't happen. I hope it doesn't happen. But is there a chance, if Matty Timoko is a late inclusion, Simi Sasungi starts in the second row and Noah gets pushed back to the bench?
Oh, for sure, there's a worry. That was mostly the trap narrative at the start before round 1 even started and we got news on Nicholson, was that if Nicholson and Sasungi are in the team, there's a very strong chance that Noah Martin doesn't even get selected anymore. But I think the way he played in that round 1 game is there's no way in the world. He is the best edge on the field, like let alone out of the player selection. Like Noah Martin is the one out of that team that I wouldn't be getting rid of. So I think
I'm also not concerned by the way that Ricky's been talking him up. He's talked him up massively.
Yeah, Ricky Stewart wants to marry him, I think. Probably ending on the Raiders there would be Ethan Sanders and Ethan Strange. They actually job shared in the kicking, which was interesting for Strange, but it didn't culminate in any benefit for his scoring whatsoever. Anything, I think it took him away from where he does score points in attack. Conclusion here is that even with kicking, Ethan Strange is a firm avoid. So I wouldn't be going there anymore. He has simmered big time. Roosters, Rabbitohs, fellas, next game. James Tedesco, very interesting and powerful with his scoring in a team that seemed very disjointed and constantly volatile. I did want to take James Tedesco over Walshy to start round one, which, again, like what you said at the start of the potty, Kenty, it's one of those ones where it's like, I wish I trusted my gut. But then you could say every single position, and imagine if we did, we'd probably be ranked at 80,000. Like, some of it you have to be calculated, and the flip side of the coin is that if Walsh come out and scored 100 and Teddy scored 67 or whatever he scored around that range, we'd all be regretting buying Teddy. Balance of outcomes, and I think that high ownership of Reece Walsh kind of just made Teddy a little bit too risky. Robert Toya's returned in at centre, so someone I'm going to be watching very early on. Sam Walker, Daly, Cherry Evans are just going to start tanking in cash. It was very clear that they're sharing jobs. So if an injury happens to one or the other, I would consider the other one maybe longer term, depending on how low the prices go. Yolu is still a firm avoid. Robson due back next week. Siwa Wong starting in the second row. Angus Crichton is probably the biggest watch in this list for me. The fact that he is starting to drop in value with a score. I didn't see any indication that that's going to change. I think the two attacking prongs on either side of the field is limiting the direction they're looking to attack. And I think the edges at Roosters are going to maybe be punished as a result of that. But do you guys have anything to add there on Roosters?
Well, a bit surprised Nat Butcher got dropped back to the bench. If he was starting second row again, I probably would have looked at him this week, to be honest. Because 80 minutes on the edge, he is a absolute tackle machine and he's an absolute workhorse. So other than that, I think not much to look at, really. I think Sam Walker, he's a sell. You know, the announcement of sharing duties with DCE week in, week out, it'll fluctuate his scores too much. For around that price range, for guys like Adam Dewey, Daniel Atkinson, I think you just need to hop off him and get onto someone a bit more promising.
Yeah, they're a total bust, both of them. And because ultimately what they should actually be doing as a Roosters outfit is chucking DCE into 7 and actually having Walker running free and playing that amazing heads-up footy that he does from 6. That's what they should actually be doing. And they should be defining those roles and they should be giving them opportunity. So what you'd want is that then once DCE finally retires at age 49, that you would still have Sam Walker in the 6. You'd have Hugo Savala running 7, and I think you would have one of the most potent young halves combinations in the game. But doing this and playing around and being silly is actually going to hurt them in the long run. From our perspective, you just cannot buy into them, and it's kind of what we talked about the preseason, that with an eye to the future, there's possibilities and there's opportunities. Right now, it's a bad idea.
Sam Walker definitely looks like a 2027 opportunity, like you said in preseason, Kenty. We're seeing the price drop, and let's hope it gets into the 200K bracket. Moving into Rabbitohs, there's a bit to unpack here, but it's kind of all very straightforward. David Fifita, big hold. Ewan Aitken turned out to be the pod we expected. In only 60 minutes, he played an edge mid-roll, which the last thing I expected was him to come off and play in that position. Cameron Murray, very impressive for a return game. He's on my watch list big time now, but he's at value. So I'm half hoping floor or giving me a reason to buy in. Cody Walker proved to be the pod that I expected. The only concern still exists is injury risk, but they attack that left side like crazy, and it has got me very high on Latrell Mitchell. I think Latrell Mitchell is going to be the main beneficiary of that attack because David Fifita really only gets involved when he's given the ball, whereas I think Latrell looks for the opportunities.
He goes looking,
and he was going in to kick in big kicks from centre. Jai Gray folded. He's gone off the radar, but for me, any coaches that have the cash in the bank to get Latrell Mitchell, and you've got all the cheapies, say like Lasati, Couchman, Martin, and you can get your cash up to a centre wing fullback DPP Latrell Mitchell, better you do it now than closer to Origin. Get the most out of him because I've got a really good feeling about him this year after watching that game. He looks on. I guess injury risk is probably the only concern.
Yeah, I was going to say, better to get him now before he's injured in round 6 for 12 weeks.
That's right.
Because it's all that seems to happen. So with him, you have a look, you see if he's got some form, you jump, and then you just hold some cash in reserve potentially to shift him because he will be injured.
Outside of that, we've got Brendan Smith returning. That's the only other thing I can kind of think of. But
I've also seen lots of people already starting to shift Fifita So there was talk to shift him before the game so that they could get Martin's score. And now there's talk about getting rid of him because, like, look how bad he is. And then there's news today that he's still dealing with that foot issue and that's going to be a management issue for the rest of the year. To note with that also is that he is at full health. It's just one of those things where athletes have a predisposition to an injury or to a problem. This is his. So as long as he's managed well, and there'll be games where he's 80, there'll be games when he's 60, he'll be sweet, just like what we know with Carraz. So I think that's just something to note, but that's not a reason to get rid of him. The reality is that he's still new to this whole setup. We know what a gunny is. We know his ability. He's definitely someone to hold, and he didn't score wildly underneath of his break even. He didn't even score so badly that it looked like he's way out of form. He actually had some really nice runs that made me think, okay, I'm stoked I've got him. We just need to be patient with him.
And the other part of David Fifita is that anyone that's played fantasy for multiple years will understand this is David Fifita's scoring profile. He has rocks or diamonds. He has a floor. Yeah. He is priced at his absolute floor. 38 points, 37 points. Like, you will very rarely see him score under that when starting for 60 to 80 minutes on the edge. And he has the potential to score 100 points. So, like, right now, you're not going to get David Fifita any cheaper than what he is now, bar maybe 30K if he floors again. And he has got a ceiling in the 800K bracket where he has potential to reach. So for me, he is the exact same as Reece Walsh. You hold and you watch this week and you give him another shot.
And he's got a 39 break even, tiny.
Just touching on Aiken as well, as an owner, I was a bit perplexed by his role. I didn't expect him to be the middle guy. I thought it was going to be Tallis Duncan for sure. I was kind of concerned, but then again, I'm not really concerned with this news about Fifita. Like, I own both of them, but if Fifita's going to be managing this issue that he has, it seems to me that the minutes are going to be kind of mixed on them. So maybe Fifita next game's going to play 65 and Aiken's going to play 80. As an owner, I'm not too worried with Aiken. If I get too concerned, I don't think his price is going to move like north or south too much. If I get the cash generation up where I want it to, it's just an easy pivot to Herbie. I'm not too bothered. As long as he can keep pumping out 50s, I'm happy.
I agree.
And I think he's got that in spades.
Yeah.
He was doing it in a canter.
Yeah.
And all he needs is a few attacking plays and he's golden.
Yep.
And then he'll really crank his score, his price.
Couldn't agree more. Aitken, it was scary being a non-owner when I've just bought into Herbie right before that game. Next one is Tigers and Cowboys. So we finally get to see the Tigers start their 2026 campaign, and they're versing a team that looked quite horrible in Vegas. So I'm expecting a lot here from the Tigers. I actually think they're going to do quite well. Hamasi Marcassini playing in centre. I'm not too sure whether or not you can really put a classification on it yet, but I'd say it's probably better for him considering he's closer to the ball, but he will also lose kick return meters and things like that with, say, someone. We just need to see how it plays out. Regardless, I still think he's undervalued big time. His base price. I've actually mentioned this in our little personal group chat too, fellas. Taylor May, I am so high on as a potential pod. You wouldn't buy into it from round 2, but you watch it 1 week, see what you need to see. He's marked up against Tom Chester this week. So if you really want to roll the dice, I think there's huge potential there. Taylor May, I'll go as far to say I think going to win Dally M Centre of the Year this year. I think Taylor May is on one. He's had his return for the 2025 season. He's forged some partnerships. That left edge is Jerome Luai, Taylor May, Sania Taruva, and Samuel Afainu. So he has very strong potential. Adam Dewey must have. He's about 200K undervalued based on his half average of 2025. So if he maintains the half roll, buy in. Api Coruscant does have a hooker on the bench in Tristan Hope, but he's in 5th jersey. But I think Jock Madden will probably just run in there. And then Kai Pearce-Paul is a bit on the watch list for me early on. But outside of that, do you guys have anything to add here? I know someone's going to want to talk on Terrell May.
Man, I just want to get as many Tigers people in my squad as I can. Like, those jerseys are friggin' mint.
Yeah, dude. They look
man. Touching on Terrell May, I just think it's too much risk to pick him up from the get-go. Like, last year, he was a juggernaut. Keeping up with pace to Payne Haas in scoring is not a mild thing to gawk at or anything like that. Like, he's a prominent dude and he's a prominent scorer. But the fact is, he's openly admitted he's been dealing with a back issue all preseason about his minutes too. Like, he's looking to cap his minutes at about 60. People are thinking that it's going to only improve his output because he won't be as sluggish or too tired. That's yet to be seen. He's on the watch list for me. I just want to see how he goes. obviously it is a high price where it's kind of like investing that much money in another dude when you've already got the likes of Payne Haas, Cleary, Herbie, all these guys. It's kind of like, man, how many big juggernauts can you have in your side without deferring from other spots? He's just on my watch list just to see how he goes.
There's a big confliction coaches get themselves in all the time with things like this. It's always based on the perception of positive outcomes, not to do with reality. So the reality is that when Terrell May played over 70 minutes last year, there was a reason why he went nuclear in value, and it's because he was an 80 average in that time frame. When he plays between 50 and 60 minutes, which is where he's going to play if this comes to fruition, he's a 61 average. So he's well and truly overpriced. Yes, it could improve his output, I guess, average sustainability over time. But the reality is he's scoring way less than his price point in that minutes range. You don't buy in from round one. Just watch it. Give it a look. But what about you, Kenty? Anything to add on these Tigers boys?
Yeah, I'm excited to watch Dewey for sure. I want to be able to see how he goes, and just really hope he stays fit, because when he's fit, he's an absolute gun. Makasini, for me, I really want to see the ball playing. I'm really interested to see him at centre. We know how damaging of a runner he is. What's he like as a ball player? Can he get a few assists, get even line break assists? Those sorts of things is what I really want to see. So for me, I'm quite excited to see him there. And I actually do think he can score really well. So his meters might be down because of kick defusals and all that, but ultimately I do think in the other areas he'll be really good. And I guess too, we can see what his defense is going to look like. So I'm planning at this point to play him straight up. An exciting player, and that's what you want in your team. The Tigers want to play him. They want to get him ball, and I see them giving him early ball, so he's going to have space.
We'll move into Cowboys. I'm keeping this one simple. The only three players I'm interested in here are Tom Chester, Reid Marnie, and Hillam Lukey. And anyone else is a watch or a sell. Get rid of Scott Drinkwater. Rib cartilage injuries are one of the worst injuries you can have in the NRL. They take a long time to recover, and you can play through them. History, I think NRL Physio went through this a couple of years ago. There was he's done more recent breakdowns on it, but a couple of years ago, NRL Physio made a reference to Supercoach stats, which is in some ways relevant to NRL Fantasy, in that people with rib cartilage injuries versus those same players without them, and there is huge statistical decreases. Like, it's so painful that your involvement will definitely decrease. Scott Drinkwater was already overpriced to begin the season, and I think it's only going to get worse for him if he's playing with a rib cartilage injury, someone who can't defend that well anyway, who has high demerits in defense, and not getting as involved in attack in a side that hasn't really been successful with scoring points. He's going to reduce in goal kicks. I think the perfect scenario here is watch Scott Drinkwater until Origin. He is going to tank in value. Do you guys have anything else to add for the Cowboys?
No, I see it very similarly. I'm really excited to watch Marnie, and hopefully what we saw in Vegas continues, and obviously his defence gets better and better, and hopefully Chester can have a blinder. I mean, Chester's still got money to make. He's got a 1 break even. He makes a tackle, and then we're golden. So I guess his tackling is a little bit scary. Let's just hope he makes that first tackle.
Oh, man. I don't think he's going to be scoring mid-40s against Taylor May, but we'll see how he goes, eh?
Look, give it a 25 to 30. I'll just take it. Ideally, you wouldn't want to score him in this round. Personally, I'm trying to look for a way to get him out. But a 25 to 30 is still going to make you 30 grand this week. Like, he's definitely not a sell. Just try and definitely don't want Taylor May running at injury-riddled Tom Chester. That's not going to be good for him.
Just sell Drinkwater with that rib issue. Don't want to chance it.
Yeah.
And wheels up, Reid Marnie. 80 minutes and 50 plus again.
Yeah. Dragons Storm next game. Dragons, there's a couple of big buys here, boys. Ryan Couchman, get him in. No Jacob Little again, named for round 2. Suggests to me that we're going to have some more awkward minutes ranges in that forward pack potentially. Great news for Ryan Couchman owners. Hamish Stewart ended up proving to be more of a hold than a sell. So coaches that have him, I just continue riding that train. It's only going to get better for him, I presume, when Little comes back. Right now, it could be a bit scattered, but he proved to do well in that minutes range. Leilua kind of hit that area where he made a bit of money, but no real interest for me compared to other options in the market. Toby Couchman becomes very interesting to me, especially when Little returns. So we get to watch another week now. Hopefully he scores a little bit under break even again, and you could maybe consider that option in round 3. Damien Cook gets another week after a 91. Massive. If you've bought into that, you're going to be laughing this week. There's a very strong chance he plays high minutes again. Daniel Atkinson is the best mid-range buy of the week for me. I think he's proven himself in trial 1 and first game of the season that he is a 50-plus average and dominating the kicking. Sedu 2, making your money, stay holding. Only other one I want to talk on is Valentine Holmes, who scored well and truly under break even, has a high break even this week, and he's losing cash. So someone to keep on the watch list.
Yeah, I agree with Atkinson. Looking at Atco, other than Martin, my last cashy, he's got a 19 break even, and I think he will smash that and then bring that down even lower. So while he may score slightly slower than everybody else, the role he's playing, 19, is crazy. So we could see him, even if he just hits another 40, there's another 21k. 40 for his role and what he's doing is low. So even if you lowball him, it's going to be a crazy amount of cash. So he's definitely high on my watch list or buy list.
Yeah, keen to see how Toby Couch goes. I've got a bit of interest in him this week, just because he would have played 60 minutes if it wasn't for the extra time. And when he plays 60 minutes, he usually gets up into those high 60s, low 70s scores. And Ryan Couchman, I'm going to be scoring him this week. I think without Little, as you said, Jai, those minutes are going to be very consistent and the same, because they went to it at the Bulldogs. They were very neck and neck, and it had to go to Golden Point for there to be a winner. I think Dragons are going to probably maybe stick to that same tactic, especially against a juggernaut like the Melbourne Storm. So I think the forwards are going to have to play their part, and Ryan Couchman is going to get through a lot of work.
We'll go to the Storm. Moses Leo, I'm still firm on him being a trap long term. I think that if you bought in and took the risk in round 1, you're the only winner here, because you got the big score, 1, you got the low break even, you got to buy in without spending a trade, and now you just get to ride the wave until it runs out. But the other side of it is that if you jump and you chase Moses Leo, it doesn't matter if he played one good game at 68 and you justify that he's in a new system and he's doing this and he's doing that, when that's just an outlier. The reality is that in the same system, playing at centre and in reserve grade, the statistics overwhelmingly are against him, in that he is a mid-20s average at best. Right now, the risk is way higher than it was in round 1. If you're buying in, you're spending a trade to get him, you're hoping for higher scores, and then if you don't get what you need from him, you have to spend another trade to get rid of him. So it's too risky. And just as a side note, he's only scored one score over 40 in his career, and it was in round 1. So good luck to you if you buy in, but I think he's a firm avoid. Far Longo has probably earned himself a hold for one more week if you own. Munster did well, but Hughes is losing cash, so he's in the watch list. Utoika Manu, I'm concerned about. He didn't get the minutes he needed. The output wasn't there, but I guess you could hold one more week if you have no more pressing issues. Harry Grant played less minutes and scored 2 tries, but he's someone I'd still look to buy. He's always someone that's great to have in your team. No concerns there. Chan Lasati getting another chance. I've got my fingers crossed, but I am not putting all my eggs in the basket, because Sean Law is sitting there in the wider reserves and could be a late inclusion. My hope is that we at least get one more week out of Lasati. If Lasati comes out and busts out of 50, bang, he makes 100k in value. Now it doesn't matter if you lose him. And if it happens next week and not too long after, you can easily just go Lasati to Chan. And we spoke on this, I think, on the live commentary on Sideline, in that we think Chan started to pass the eye test. He looks like a different player now, I think you said, Kenty.
Yeah, I agree with the Chan Lasati situation. I think if you own Chan, you stick. You could potentially bring in Lasati as well and try and jump in on a bit of cash just for this week, but you'd have to see it as a this week moment. Yeah, Lasati's got a negative 12 break even, where Chan's got a negative 5. They're going to make tons of money. So if you don't have either, definitely jump on Lasati first. If you are looking for some generation and you already have Lasati, I have considered it myself, going with Chan, owning both for this week and then see where it goes to. So, because the reality is at the moment Chan looks to have the lead. So if you're buying into Chan, I think it's a lot safer than if you're buying into Lasati for the first time.
I'm just going to watch the Chan Lasati scenario again. Chan last game maybe was a bit of like an outlier, I'm not going to say fluke, but unlike him historically, historically, he's not that great playing 80 minutes on the edge. He's not up there. So if he can continue this pattern, then I'm going to have a bit more faith. And then if Lasardi gets dumped for Blore, then it's going to be an easy swap, Lasardi to Chen. Jump on one value maker to another value maker. And for people who own Sewer, which is a lot of people, when he was on 6 at halftime, I was crapping myself. I really was, because I was like, man, he's going to be a bust. But then he came out and he had a 49-point second half.
So 2.0.
Oh, bro, it just shows his capabilities and what he can do when there's broken play. And when people are on the back foot and when these 6 again rules, I can see Sewer making points quickly. I'm expecting big things from Sewer for this game. But look, I can only see myself holding him for probably around about like a 4 to 5 week period. And then I'm going to probably jump off. He's good to have early on in the season, but for people who own, look to pivot eventually.
Yeah, I actually am quite concerned about him, to be honest, because 6 points in the first half against the side that they destroyed, you would expect a bit more even consistency. Like, he did end up coming out and rectifying the record, for the second half, and just the show of that potential, like what he can score in one half when he gets going, you wouldn't get rid of him this week at all. But I think if you see another slow half and against a team now that has a better defensive structure, if he can't find a way through and he middles in mid-20s or low 30s, I'd really consider getting rid of him in round 3, because he'll flatten out again in value, become that Isaiah Yongi type that we predicted he was going to be in the preseason, and I do not stay on that train. That was 10 weeks of pain for me, and I would never do that again. This game, guys, is Panthers and Sharks. So Panthers first, there's not that much to talk about here. Isaiah Papali'i named to start's become extremely interesting to me, but you'll notice that Liam Martin's also not named, so I don't know whether or not this will be the factor when Liam Martin returns, so I wouldn't be diving into Papali'i. Isaiah Yo's concerning, playing 60 minutes with Kalani going on the bench. I don't know if this is, say, like an age rotation change where they're going to try and start softening Yo. I can't see it being that way. Like, Yo's shown no signs of decline, still scored basically a point per minute that he played out in the field. But I don't know where else you play them. It seems Billy Phillips, Jack Cogger, Scott Sorensen, Kalani going, Isaac Tago, Freddie Lussick, like, they don't have that much in their rotation. I'm concerned there, but there's no reason I'd get rid of Isaiah Yo. Nathan Cleary must have, like, God, he underscored, and you'd hold him forever. But against the Sharks, I know it's my team, but he always tends to do quite well against them for fantasy scoring. So yeah, I'm expecting big from him. Brian To'o didn't live up to expectations. He's losing cash. Casey McLean did exactly what we said he would. Scored a try, ran decent meters, scored a 21. Don't touch him. Tom Jenkins was interesting, but I'm not too sure he holds that role long term now that Isaac Tago is back out of reserve grade, so I probably wouldn't take the punt there. And Dylan Edwards was sort of impressive, but I wouldn't rely on that scoring range.
I'm not concerned with Yo at all. I think because they were dominating 26-0, Cleary just saw that as the opportunity to be like, all right, I'm going to rest my main man,
Okay,
and you got to protect your big guy investments, and that's him.
Long season.
Long season. And the fact, looking at that bench, it's very mid-week. You got Sorensen, has established himself as a bit of a mid, but also can play second row. Billy Phillips, I don't even know what position he plays. Going is bro, and then you got Tago and Lussick. Like, there's no mids there, I think, except for Phillips and going. And so
they're going to need breaks for sure, playing in that rotation.
Yep, correct. So Leota has a break, Smith has a break, Papali'i has a break. I think the minutes are there for Yo. And especially in this game versus the Sharks. Sharks played tremendously well last week. I'm not going to praise them too much. But it's going to be a tough competition this week. So I think Yo's going to be up for it.
Yeah. And keeping in mind, too, last time Sharks versus the Panthers was in Vegas of round 1, and we nearly won. So it's not like that these guys are levels apart. I do think, though, that Panthers are levels better than they were to start last season. They were last at round 12. So I've actually tipped the Panthers. I'm not big on tipping. I tip with my head. And I think Panthers are going to win this one, but I think it'll be a lot closer than people think. Sharks look red hot this year. And I know we versed Titans, but we look like we're clicking. So defense was good. Attack was strong. We've got to see how we go against top 8 side now. Sharkies, again, same team is basically named. Blake Brayley was impressive, so we will pretty big on the buy train to start the preseason, but faded once we got to Marnie. Nicker losing cash, big watch. Jesse Colquhoun is a hold in theory, but if you have no other trade bait, he's definitely someone I would use to get into Noah Martin or Ryan Couchman even. Nico Hines, I think the hindsight play was that buying him in round one was probably a smart idea because I see him in that low 50s average, and now with that massive bumper score, he's probably going to make a bit of money, but you wouldn't race out and buy him now. It's round one or bust. Braden Trindle, don't fall for that massive score. That is not something that he gets frequently. He also scored, I think, 2 tries. So don't go near him. Kale Iro losing cash. He was very underwhelming in a game where they smashed a team, an attacking side. So it was good to see that without owning it. Jesse Ramian was impressive, but again, he's already shown that he has one of those games every 10 weeks and then just scores in mid-30s outside of that. But anything else to add here, guys?
I think the Jesse Colquhoun thing is an important thing to talk through, is the fact that he is going to make money. And in past seasons, just like Ho, they are both going to make money and we would have been stoked. But the reality is that in both of those two boys, they seem to be quite a bit slower, particularly Colquhoun. And Colquhoun's not very flashy. He's not very interesting, but he makes tackles and he's good on defense. He's going to get minutes, so he is going to make money. Last year, we would have been stoked. We would have held him. This year, he is going to be a whole lot slower. Can you afford to have it such a slow player versus all these other boys who are already on negatives and who are going to absolutely kill it? It's going to really come down to each coach's teams and their makeup. But for me, he would be one of the biggest trade baits, kind of number one on the hit list. You've got to move him to be able to get these fast cash earners. Remember, it's weeks 1 to 6, 1 to 8. That's where our cash generation is. And if you're going to have a player that's going to make money, but slowly, it's not worth it.
Well, it was the realization for me as well, because he wasn't due back on. It was Tommy Hazelton that came off with the trainer because he had a small niggle, which forced Colquhoun back on. I think Colquhoun was going to play maybe 5 or whatever less minutes. So he would have ended up around that 40 range, which would have put his score in that mid to high 30s.
There is the perception there now with a little bit more validation that he may even score a bit closer to his break even and slow down that price rise even more.
Agree. And then that's going to nuke any value he has.
Yeah. Manly versus Knights. Go through Manly first. Tom Trbojevic. There was late rumours that this has been the best preseason he's ever had in years and he's looking great in preseason. I was like, I'm not buying into that. But it looked pretty good. And he looked great on the field. But the problem
until half-time.
That's right, with the massage on the leg. Sorry. Massage on the hamstring. That came out wrong. But yeah, that's an avoid for me. I don't want to be messing around with Tommy Turbo hamstrings, but he looked great. Tolu Kola is very interesting. There was a handful of people that were interested in him as a pod center option to start the year, and he went out and he gunned it, but I don't know if it's something I'd buy into. It's something I want to watch a little bit longer. Ruben Garrick losing cash. We already know Hopewadi is a no-go zone unless Turbo's injured for 20 weeks, which will probably happen in round 2. Brooks and Jamal Fogarty are job sharing, losing cash as predicted. Don't touch. The only one I care about in this whole pack right now is Jake Simpkin, who played, I'm pretty sure, 80 minutes. And even though he didn't have the most impressive score ever, that's an 80-minute hooker that we're all looking for this year at an underpriced value. So someone
could be a very good backup.
Yeah. Anyone else you guys would want to talk about in this team or anything to add?
No, I've got no interest, to be honest.
Same as round 1A.
Not for Manly, just Simpkin. That's it. Yeah. Homole, you could probably give a bit of a shout out to, but still, there's better value in edges. So
yeah, that's the same as preseason.
I agree. Way more value.
Anyone in a Sea Eagles jersey, I'm not interested.
Or the guy that Kenty dreamed about, Taniela Paseka.
Yeah. Paseka did well.
Yeah, apparently he's a halfback now.
Yeah, apparently.
Moving into Knights, Kalen Ponga, they're very interested to see how they play out in round 2. I think this is going to either give me more risk with my dyeing my hair blonde and potentially getting a casual athlete tattoo, or it's going to confirm to me that I've won. I think that's where we're at on this game because the competition steps up slightly. I get to see the rotations again. If we see a suppressed Dylan Brown, GG's, Longy, just dye it now. It'll go back brown sooner. That's basically my advice to Longy. You get 6 weeks out of the schedule. That cockiness is probably going to make me lose. So no worries to all the Brown owners. You're about to get a 50+. Caleb Ponga, though, did everything. He's someone I really, really keen to buy. but I'm also like tarnished from trauma in 2025, and I don't really know yet, so I'm going to watch another week. Best and Gagai losing cash. Greg Marju was decent, but not something you'd race out to buy. Do not buy into Dylan Brown if you don't own, but give him one more week. This is his last opportunity before their schedule gets incredibly tough. It's the same as Mitch Moses, you know. You could trade out if you have no other trade bait. Not going to talk you out of it, but he definitely deserves another chance because you bought him thinking he was going to be a 44-plus average. You didn't buy him for a one-round score. Trey Mooney, arguably one of the best mid-rangers. Well, actually, I'm pretty sure he was the best mid-range outside of Lukey this week. Jermaine McEwen beat his break-even, but proved that he's not really of that caliber. He's more of the Jesse Colquhoun slow burn range. Outside of that, that's all I'm interested, really, fellas. Anything to add there on them?
Yeah, with the Ponga situation, he's got a break-even of 24. It's not at that point where I feel like I must get him, because if he was in single digits, I'd probably just take the punt. But he's somewhere in the middle. So say he still gets a 50, he's only adding 20 plus K, and that's a risk, right? That's the risk profile that I'm taking, because ultimately if he does still go massive, then it's killing me. And so I guess what each coach has got to try and figure out is, okay, so where is your risk profile? And are you able to sit on your hands and watch what happens and hope like Howie is a slow one and maybe Brown steps up? Or do you kind of go, nah, man, I don't want to watch that game from behind my couch. I've got to get him in my team.
There's another variable to it too. If you own Reece Walsh and then you buy into this kind of risk, you've got a lot of volatility there of over $1 million in investments. It starts to get really pricey. So I'm just running my cheapies another week. Yeah, I know I'm going to get lower scores, but like I just want the dust to settle a bit. Decent mid-range, low-end guns losing money now. Things are just, we always said this in the preseason, we're going to need to give this time to clean up at centre wing fullback, and it's starting to come together after one round.
I am buying Ponga.
Oh, yeah, I knew you would. Can't sit behind the couch and watch him, can you?
I'm investing. He looked too damn good to pass up on him. And I think against a side like Manly with a heavy forward pack, I think Ponga is going to be pretty damaging this game. Great. And with Dylan Brown, ended on a 37, 15 in demerits. That's 52 points in just base stats. So I'm having faith that Brown is going to bounce back this game and post up a 50 plus. If he doesn't, I have the revenue there to move off elsewhere, but this is his last chance for me. I know we've only given him one round, but it's kind of like if you're going to do something from halfback, you got to do it quick. And I have high faith that Brown's going to bounce back.
Yeah. Moving into the Finns. Now, there's one real big one here that I just completely overlooked. And Browny, our discussion in our personal chat, has made me put the C on Herbie. That's where I'm at. I am captaining Herbie Farnworth against his Titans side, and that goes completely against my grain. But the fact that he come out and busted it nearly a 60 against the side where it was back and forth, I don't think he scored a try either in that.
Yeah, he did.
He did.
Oh, he did? Okay.
He just touched it.
Well, it was that ricochet.
It was the try that shouldn't have been a try because he did push out of the way, but it's all right.
Yeah. And it was literally plus 8 points. Like it wasn't any attacking benefit on the side. Correct. So, yeah, I'd say that's a decent score, but against this Titans side, I could see him scoring a hat trick. Like, not saying it's going to happen, but I can see it happening. It also bodes very well for Selwyn Cobbo. I think this is, if you own Selwyn Cobbo, he underperformed last week. He's again giving him this last chance to prove himself. Isaiah Katoa was underwhelming, someone I'm watching heavily, the price drop. Tom Flegler, Tom Gilbert was horrible, but Thomas Flegler scored in that 40 range. Kind of justified non-investment, but again, that's not something you'd be racing out to. Connolly Lemuelu gets another chance at starting edge. He was impressive. But Max Plath returns at 14. Where does Max Plath play? Bradley Schneider can play big minutes. Does Ray Stone jump in at somewhere in that side? I can just see Max Plath getting a return via the bench this week. There's a very strong chance that he starts in round 3. It's not something I would touch on. You got JMK on the return soon. Kurt Donahue returns as well. You got JMK, Kurt Donahue, Max Plath to fit into this rotation. Connolly Lemuelu is not playing 80 in that time frame. So in the meantime, he's going to, but yeah, don't buy in. Anything to add to the Dolphins, fellas?
I'm excited to see Plath, mostly to see that rotation. They're still a forward pack that I'd love to invest in, but once we know what those roles are, And so it's still too risky. And then that backline's fire, and I'm stoked to have Herbie. But I do think that Herbie is very ripe for a pod captain. Yeah, it's going to be a very interesting game.
Max Platt's also going to shed a little bit of cash playing from the bench too. It's going to be very interesting. I'm pretty sure you touched on that in the preseason.
Yeah. And what about Herbie running against Ilias? Can't wait.
Oh, yeah. It's more like Herbie running at a hole. Oh, sorry. I shouldn't take the piss out of Ilias. I feel bad for him already.
I like Ilias, but it's a terrible matchup.
Yeah.
As Hannah said, mate, all right, the guy's been through enough, all right?
Moving into the Titans, I've simmered on all interest here pretty much in the team. They got hammered. There's suppression everywhere. Tino, horrible. He's losing cash. Sam Verrills has got the sternum issue, so he's going to have suppressed scores at least for the next couple of weeks, you'd imagine. Probably won't play 80. Cooper Bye, as predicted, wasn't going to get the minutes, and it was going to harm Chris Randall. Both avoids. Fermor middled. Aramar Howe is going to make money. He's probably the only one that I will continue holding on to. I'm forced into a hold on Siali Faimani as well, but it's more just like for winger fullback coverage. But again, he's going to break even at 9. It's not the worst thing in the world. And I think Keanu Kenny is someone worth watching when JC returns.
I think you've had it on the head. We need to see this team with JC.
Yeah.
He's the one that really does pull the strings. Last year, they didn't win a single game without him. With him not playing again, particularly this weekend, against what we know is an absolute fire attack in the Finns, it's pretty scary for them.
I was going to say, I wish I owned Herbie for this week because, I'd probably pod captain him. But I don't own him, so I can't do that.
I can't do it. So, Kenty, your Kenty's market move strategy approach of the week. Give it to us.
Yeah, man, I've kind of touched on it a little bit. The biggest thing that you can do right now is to get rid of deadwood, get rid of slow earning players, and bring in the quickest ones. So right now, I think the players that absolute must-have that you should have in your team, Martin, -20. Leo, -12, Lasati, -12, and then Rauchman, -6. Now, if you have Leo, I would keep him. If you don't have him, don't buy him. And he's the only one that I wouldn't chase. Lukey, surely everyone has him, but he's -7. Chan, we've talked about -5. So I would put him above some of the other players. Chester's on a 1, 2's on a 2. Ho has got a 6. Sanders 6. Fayamani 9. Even Cody Walker 9. Those boys are the guys that I would be targeting. I'd be looking at them and I'd be trying to get them into my team immediately. And don't sleep on the fact that there are some other players like Mooney's on a 14 break even. So he's someone to really look at and watch. So say, for example, you don't have him and you're down a Hopgood, I'd be looking at him pretty seriously, but surely everyone has Mooney. And Stewart's on a 28. Don't be too concerned. I wouldn't be rushing out to get him. Quite a few people have looked at rushing out and getting him because they were so impressed what he did with the minutes. I would still cool that a little bit and just watch. But basically what you're trying to do right now, rounds 1 to 6, you're trying to make as much cash as possible. So right now use every trade you have to chase those players and to chase that value, and your team will benefit and be the best it can possibly be because of it.
Brilliant. Far out.
Very inspirational, wasn't it? Far out.
So well articulated.
I got chills from that.
Would you like to watch Blindside, Kenty?
Far out. Man, I feel inspired.
Yeah.
My team's just ready to go. Like that's
Yeah.
Man.
You just did the Phil Gould origin speech for Kenty.
It was more Braveheart, I think. That was
Yeah.
I'll take the Braveheart. Yeah.
It was picturesque.
So Brownie's breakdown on the tipping.
Yo, yes.
You tell me exactly what to do for my tipping this week. You did all right last week, and there was some upsets, but you brought it back, tipping the Rabbits over the Dolphins. So that was a nice approach. But what is it for round 2?
I've got Broncos over the Eels. I think Broncos bounce back pretty heavily. I've gone the Wars over the Raiders. Yes, absolutely. The way the Wars played last week, man, they took it to the Roosters. And I thought Roosters were going to win, but they're playing at home again, wheels up. Roosters, Rabbitohs, I'm going Rabbitohs based on form. I think Rabbits get up again. They just played tremendously well against the Finns. Got Tigers over the Cowboys. I think that's a pretty easy one. Tigers look red hot, ready to start the season. Storm over the Dragons. I'm going to put this one in the 1 to 12 category. I don't think Storm come out and really dominate like they did last week. I think
I
Dragons
agree.
are a much improved side. So, but I've got Storm winning that one. Penrith over the Sharks.
I do too.
Oh, yeah, you pretender. But look, that's going to be a tough game, I think. Sharks
Yeah.
very improved last week. I know it was against the Titans, but just take it where you can. Seagulls versus the Knights. I've gone Seagulls. At home, they took it to the Raiders, I think, which are a strong outfit as it is. And then I've gone Dolphins over Titans in probably like 30 plus.
Yeah.
What's
And
crazy
200
about that,
points for Herbie.
Yes.
Yeah.
No.
Nothing? Do we just drag this out so Kenty can't go back to work on time? That's it, boys. Follow Kenty's Market Move. Follow Brownie's Breakdown. Follow Blindside NRL for all your fantasy needs. I'm keen as for round 2, boys, just so that I can get a bigger lead on the pack, especially you, boys. I will see you on the next one.
Up the wires.
Up the storm.